When everything looks okay but feels off, this is where we talk about it all. Hi, friends, and welcome to This Shit Can't Be It, where we have raw, real, unfiltered conversations about rising through all the hard things and reclaiming our personal power. So, whether you're here to be seen, heard, get inspired, find some tools and strategies for your own healing, growth, and journey, you're in the right place. Hi, I'm your host, Anne, and today we're diving into redefining self care, permission, presence, personalization for moms with ADHD. Today, Nicola is joining me, and she has a powerful dismantling story that one size fits all myth is not true, not even close. So, self care is not about routines or even looking good on paper or even looking good in the physical world, but it's about listening to yourself, your body, and your soul, and giving yourself permission and honor that is needed in the moment. Welcome, Nicola. Nicola, I'm so glad that you're here.
So nice to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Yes. Oh, you're very welcome. I'm excited to talk to you because of your history and the challenges that you faced. How about diving in for me and just really letting us know where your lowest moments were, what you were dealing with in that moment, and what started you to come out of that whole circumstances.
Yeah. Well, let me give you a little bit of context first. So, I'm a mom of five. Now my kids are not so little anymore, but we had them fairly close together. So that alone, in the amount of children, makes for a very busy household. And then fairly soon we realized, wait a minute, something is off track, if you will. You know, you have your milestones to hit and certain expectations of how things are going. And it was very obvious that we are developing on our own time, in our own pace, in our own way. And it was much later that we then realized, wait a minute, this is ADHD, that this is autism. And then as the kids started school, then all the other discs come with it, right? There's the dyslexia, dysgraphia, dyscalculia, like all the things that make it a little harder to function in a system that's not set up for that. So in our family, we do have multiple diagnoses, including myself and my husband with ADHD and autism. So it makes for a very interesting household. And because we did not know much of it, it was really busy and challenging. And on top of that, my mom got diagnosed with cancer, and she passed. And it was just leading to a point of complete overwhelm. To be quite frank, we had moved countries. My husband was working. I was home with all the kids, dealing with all of it, all of it. So, you know, we all have you need to take care of your house. We all have you have your job, and that alone is many plates to spin. But when you throw in extra challenges and extra special needs in the kids, it becomes hard. And you as a mom, you are the one who's carrying it. You're carrying it at all. And I did not know at that point how much I was carrying. It's mostly, you know, you're in survival mode. You're just going from your day, going to bed late because you wanted a little bit of time to yourself, having to get up early, starting the struggle with getting everyone ready and already feeling behind. And you just kind of making it through your day without having the time to pause and really see what's going on and restructuring so you can function better and give some space to breathe. And so we were running in this rut mill over and over and over again. And eventually my body said, that's nice, but I'm done.
Yes.
I can't sustain this. I got a really bad backache right as my mom was sick. I was basically bedridden, up all night walking because I'm in pain, and then sleeping all day because I was tired or in pain. We had a lot of help from friends taking care of the kids. I don't remember what we did during that time other than peanut butter jelly sandwiches. Or who knows? I mean, my husband was helping as much as he could, but he was working too.
Yeah.
And that was a span of a few months where I had a lot of back pain and it got better. And I remember being in town, finally being able to get out again, which was nice. And I'm going through the town, I was like, something has to give. Right? Like this can't go on like this.
Shit can't be it.
Right? This can't be it. This can't be it. Really seriously. And a thought popped in my head where Albert Einstein said the thought that got you into the problem can't get you out of the problem. I'm like, well, that's
Right.
nice. But so I'm going and walking around and I was like, I need a new thought. I need a new thought. I need a new thought. Because I didn't know. And I wish I had looked at my clock because I did have a new thought and I know exactly where I was in town. I wish I would have written it down to give a date. But my new thought was, ain't feeling it, ain't doing it. And it was at that moment that I gave myself permission to really listen to what I wanted. Not in a selfish way of I don't care about anyone else, but I was like, I need to have some boundaries, some space around what is actually happening. And so
Yeah.
my caveat was the kids need to go to school because it's illegal to homeschool, and the kids needed to go to school and they needed to be fed. Not needed to have a 5-course dinner. If it was yogurt or, peanut butter jelly sandwiches, then so be it. They needed to be fed. But that was the only two caveats I carved out around that. And honestly, the first 3 days, I rested. I rested so much. And that meant a little bit of extra TV for the kids because they weren't trained to take care of themselves at that point, and they were younger still. But I just rested. And after 3 days, kind of emerged from that and was like, okay, I just listened to whatever felt good in the moment. And as a result of that, at the end of 30 days, I had 300 pounds worth of clutter leaving the house. Um, I I knew what it meant to listen inside. And from there, I started developing all my self-care strategies that I'm teaching now and bringing to others. But it really starts with that point of listening, of honoring what you're finding, and then recreating yourself. And that's really the core of what I'm teaching.
Yeah,
And
power and presence. Yeah.
yeah.
And as you're talking, I'm like, oh my God, this was so me. Like I was, same thing. I was caught up in that rat race, but for me, it was
Yeah.
Dr. Joe Dispenza. I was
Mhm.
listening to him on a podcast and he said very plainly and clearly, and that was my slap in the face. He said, our bodies, when we're in constant survival mode, that's fight, flight, or freeze. And me being a fighter, like I have a very dominant personality, and I was like, oh my God, I'm in survival mode all day at work, like all day. And when I come home, I'm exhausted. So I didn't know what present moment was. But he
Yeah.
said, when you're in that survival mode, we're only meant to have bursts of that. And he said, in that burst, our bodies produce like a ton of various chemicals like cortisol,
Yeah.
hormones, and
Yeah.
like adrenaline, like all these things. It's meant to be in the moment, but when you're living in it all day long, he said that creates disalignment, which is dis-ease, and you put the words together and you got
Mhm.
disease.
Yeah.
And
Very
he
much
said our
so.
physical body will start to manifest illness in the form of heart disease, cancer, liver, lung, like doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah.
It'll manifest in our body, and that's exactly what you experienced.
Yeah.
That's insane. So I love that you found the presence, like the power and presence, because it took me a long time to figure that out. Like
It's
40
hard.
plus
It's hard
years.
to get to that point
It
because
is.
there's no one pointing towards it. Then
No.
you're here with disease and you go to the doctor and they're like, well, you have high blood pressure, take this pill,
Yeah.
eat less salt maybe, and that's the extent of the advice given. No one
Yeah.
asks, how can we, maybe they ask, how much stress do you have? And then you say, well, a lot. And I was like, okay, that's not good. And then you're still left to fend for yourself because
Yeah.
they don't teach you how to structure your life out of that rat race.
They
And,
don't.
I like to say, as much as I teach self care, I like to say that you can't self care your way out of a bad lifestyle. Like, a
No.
hot bath is not going to fix your bad morning routine.
No.
It's,
No, it's a start, but you're right. You need a deeper understanding and
yes,
awareness. I
yes,
teach on awareness, and yeah, you've got to take it the next level. Like that's a start, but that's not going to
yeah,
solve, like you say, it's not going to solve all your problems. 100%. And yeah, that's been the biggest thing because you're right. Like even here in Canada, because I know you mentioned you're in Germany, but here in Canada, like a lot of the general practitioners, so your family doctors, they
Hmm.
generally, like you say, they pill the symptoms,
Yeah.
and it masks what's really going on, and they don't take a deeper dive in what's going on. And that's where I struggled when because our daughter deals with a lot of similar things that you're dealing with. You know, she was
Hmm.
diagnosed ADD, select mutism, the high social anxiety, and last year autism. And they don't tell you and guide you in any way. They're like, here's a bunch of resources. Well, when I went to the Autism Edmonton site, it was just, I'm going to say, close to 200 various pages of reading and reading and reading. And it was all geared towards kids. And I'm like, yeah,
Yes.
this shit isn't working for me. So I got frustrated
Yeah.
and I started doing my own digging. And there was one time I actually had a doctor because I had a high stress job, and it was really super crazy. And same thing, it was happening in amongst her different diagnoses. We were growing exponentially and we weren't getting any help. And the doctor, I couldn't get in and see my doctor, so I got in to see a doctor that was on call that day. And it was her brother, actually. And he actually said to me, what do you do to mitigate your stress? And I was like, well, I used to go to karate, but I don't have time anymore. And I used to, and I said, I try to meditate and I try to do all these things. But he said, keep up. He's the only doctor I've ever heard say, keep up with your meditations. Don't let that fall to the wayside.
Mm-hmm.
And he's the only doctor I've ever heard say that. And then he says to me, he said, I want to put you off for 2 weeks. And of course, he explained the whole thing, but he didn't agree with long term being off, which I totally agree with. Like, it's, but one thing he did say, he said, I have to ask. He said, what is your plan? He said,
Yeah.
if your work doesn't change. And
Yeah.
I looked at him and I said, if
What do you
work
mean? What
doesn't get
plan?
us help, I said, I'm fucking out of here. And that's one thing he said, you would not believe the amount of people, he said, I have to send to counseling to get to that realization. I was like, really? And he's like, yeah.
Mm.
He said,
Yeah.
people get so beat up and so stuck in the weeds, they don't even see they have a way out.
Yeah.
It's
No, there's no way
insane.
out, right?
No, no.
That's my job, and what am I supposed to do? And I just have to suck it up. And
Yeah. So how did you find your way out? Because that's a lot. Like, you're dealing with a lot of functionality challenges as well as the health challenges. What made what happened to get you out of that situation?
honestly, it was the 30 days was really the start of it all, where I began to listen and made changes. Now, I was in a privileged situation that I did not have a full-time job outside of the house on top of it. So I was able to structure a lot around my home schedule. So that the biggest outside demand was the school that I had to get kids to and from. And then in the midst of that, I had to pick up one of my kids early because he couldn't make it through a whole day. We were going to the school 2 to 3 times a day to drop off and pick up at various times on public transport because we didn't have a car at the point. Um, and then everything else was structured around that, whatever made sense. Um, Trying to think where, if I can pinpoint where things started really changing. I think I gave myself permission to make it easy.
Mm.
Whatever was within my capacity. So I dropped and shed a lot of the outside expectations or internalized outside expectations of how something should be, and really started to look at what is it that will work for us. Um, One simple thing that I did is I implemented a 3-week rotation meal plan. Now, at that point, I'm not a cook. Like, we're not talking meals. I just needed to know that I'm not serving spaghetti every other day because of my ADHD and time blindness. I couldn't remember when the last time I served a certain meal. And so it felt like it was spaghetti every day, which it wasn't,
Oh,
but it sure felt that way. And so I was like, okay, what can I do? And honestly, on my meal plan, the first time round that I did, I had quesadilla on there, I had spaghetti on there, I had fish sticks on there. So nothing culinary, but something that was sustainable that was repeated, so I didn't have to make that decision every day. I could go to
Mm.
my plan. It was something I had in my house at all times. It was something I could do even on a really, really low day, on a really low energy day. I knew I could still do it. It was varied enough that I didn't feel too bad about doing it. And if I had really a lot of energy, I could spruce it up, throw in a bag of lettuce or something. And
Yeah.
that was one of those easy things where I'm like, I don't care if in my mind, I wish I could make, super nice meals that, by the way, my kids probably wouldn't have eaten anyways because they were little and they had food sensitivities. But regardless, I needed to give myself permission that I am allowed to do what works for us now. And it took off a lot of stress in that area. Also, one of my favorite strategies around that is I feed myself first. Because
Mm.
when it's 4 p.m. and you have 5 little kids cranky because they're hungry, guess what? You're probably hungry too, and you're probably cranky too, because as mom, you probably haven't eaten properly all day. And it's for no, it's called the witching hour for a reason, because it's a horrible time. So I started eating first. I ate. And then I served my kids because they were little. They needed help with juices and with cutting pieces and with serving and with mitigating the fighting that was going on because they were, young. So I could have the patience to actually do
Mm.
it. Is that the family meal that I would have liked to have where we all sit at the table and we have conversations and no, it didn't exist, but it was okay.
Yes.
Again, I gave myself permission for it to be okay, recognize this is a season, and that's
Mm.
what it has to do. But it was so practical and it was so
Yes.
valuable.
Now, you said something I would really like for you to touch on because our viewers, if they're not navigating ADHD and autism specifically, you mentioned energy because this is massive when it
Yeah,
comes to, because I see it in my daughter. Like I'm like the Energizer Bunny. I can go all freaking day, but she has energy crashes. And as soon as you mentioned, like they can't make it through I've experienced all of this, like having to go do pickups early or having meltdowns because of something happened,
hmm,
not touch on that a little bit, just to paint a picture for our viewers that
sure.
don't have that so that they can understand how much added pressure this can be when it because every energy affects everything.
Mhm.
And us as neurotypical people, we tend to ignore that and not realize how much energy impacts. So that when you're, like you say, if you're at that witching hour and you're hangry, hungry and angry, the
Yeah,
kids are going to reflect that back at you as well, regardless,
yeah.
because that's the energy that you're putting out. So then when you add the ADHD and the autism energy drainers, like that's a whole added different level of pressure and reality that most people don't get.
Sure. Yeah. I'm glad you're bringing that up. Capacity is such an overlooked element in all of this. So if you have no idea what we're talking about, imagine you get 10 spoons, and it's called a spoon theme, if you will, in the ADHD world. So if you tell someone, oh, I ran out of spoons, they most likely will understand what you're saying. Imagine you get 10 spoons that you can spend on your day, and each activity is worth something. So getting up, taking a shower, getting dressed, and ready for work is 1 spoon. Having a difficult conversation at work with your boss, 2 spoons gone. Just making it through your normal workday, another 3 spoons gone. Anything unexpected, another spoon is gone. And so you reach maybe 4 o'clock and you don't have any spoons to give anymore, but you still have things to attend to. And that's where the exhausting part comes. Now, you don't always get 10 spoons and you don't get to decide how many spoons you have. So some days you wake up and you're like, good day, 12 spoons, ready to go. And you're attacking your list that is worth 100 spoons, by the way. But you have these 10 spoons or 12 spoons. But some days you wake up and it's 2. And that's just what it is. Because, for some of us women, when you're on your period, usually lower spoons. But it
Mhm.
could be any which way. Maybe you had a wonderful weekend away with people. It was a great experience, but guess what? It cost so many spoons. And now for the next 3 days or 3 weeks, sometimes 3 months, if you really struggle with autism, you don't get any spoons anymore. You spend them all, and you dipped into the account, into your future account, and already spend those spoons. And so having autism and capacity can be quite a roller coaster, because sometimes you don't know how much you will have to spend. And sometimes you have to spend more than you have. And even fun things can cost you.
Yeah.
And so learning how to deal with the energy that you have and is given to you, and also learning, okay, what really replenishes my energy. And for most people, for most autistic people, it's quiet time. It's don't talk to me, don't demand anything of me. And demanding meaning simple things like we need to go somewhere on time could be a demand, or you have to eat now could be a demand. So it could be very small things.
I noticed my daughter, even a simple
Is a
question.
demand. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
too much. And it's hard for everyone. And at this point, I do want to say that the people who are on the other side have it, looking at someone with autism, that's hard to deal with, because there's nothing you can do to fix it. But it's also hard on the other side of being in that place. And it's like, I wish I could, but I just cannot right now. And you feel very disabled, actually, like in a literal sense of, I do not have the ability to do it right now, and I feel very limited, and that's very frustrating. So it's definitely something to always have in the back of your mind.
Yeah, because we all, and I bring this up because we all as neurotypicals have these things to build our self-esteem, but it's very different. Because autism and ADHD, it's not a disease, it's not a sickness, it's not an illness. It's a way the brain functions. You're born this way. It's hereditary. It's not a sickness or a disease, but it's a different way of functioning. It's a different way of processing information. And the people on the outside that are considered neurotypical, and I hate these labels, but just to help viewers understand the differences, it's a very different way of interacting and communicating with people who are neurodivergent. So that's powerful. So if you if you were talking to a group of people that are new to you, what are some strategies that you can offer our viewers that are navigating that ADHD world or even the autistic world that they can take and apply to see if it's going to work for them?
That's a big question, because a lot of the answer depends on who I'm talking to.
100%. Very individual. Yeah.
Very, very individual. Okay, so the common denominator is we all need to eat, we all need to sleep, we all need to play. There's no way around that. And to make that a priority is very hard in this world, because play goes out first. And food goes out for many people. Many autistic people don't necessarily experience hunger the same way. And they also often have food sensitivities. So even when you are hungry, nothing sounds good and you can't eat. And if you're hungry, that takes a lot of energy. We all know that, right? Like when we're hungry, we're a little bit on edge and we just need to, eat something. And a lot of times autistic people can't, because nothing sounds good, and so they can't eat. And so they're stuck in this hungry. So if I had to bring it down to all the basics, is make sure you eat whatever works for you, whenever it works for you. Make sure you sleep enough, and make sure you connect with other people and have that play part in it. And how to get there is very individual, for sure. But those are, I will always bring people back to the basics. And
Yes, that's awesome.
you'd be surprised how hard it is in the autistic community to cover those basics. How many
100%.
struggle with regular showers because of all the sensory issues that go on with it, or the food, because you're hungry, you open the fridge and it's ingredients, not food. So what do you do with that? Because you don't have energy to cook.
No.
So
Or capacity to process at the moment of, putting things together for a salad, or, getting meat marinated and cooked, like
Oh gosh.
100%. And that's one thing I noticed with my daughter is routine structure has been huge from the time she was born. Like
Mm.
my labor was structured, not by not by my doing, but knowing what I know
Mhm.
now. But literally, it's insane how much she relies on structure.
It's
So as
safe.
long as she can map everything out, she's good. It's when there's a glitch in that map, it can throw a wrench into everything for sure.
Routines and structure bring safety because you know what's going to happen. Also, it makes it easy because you don't have to make any more decisions. It's already
Mhm.
been done. So that's helpful. But now, if you have a parent who has ADHD and you say, "Oh, just give your kids the consistency and the structure," and we're just like, "That's nice. I can't keep it up for myself. How in the
No.
world am I going to do it for my child?" So what I tell people is forget about consistency, forget about structure, but go with routines and rhythms
Mhm.
because that's easier for our ADHD brain to embrace because
Yeah.
it doesn't happen. Structure just does not happen unless it's dictated from the outside. So if I have a school drop off, I know 7:50, that's my time. I can structure around that. If that
Yeah.
doesn't happen, so when school is off and I'm supposed to keep that up, there's no outside pressure because it doesn't matter if I eat at 12 or 12:30 or 1 or 2,
Yeah.
and
You
so
gotta have the routine.
it's fluid. But if I go by rhythm, so we do something active and then we do something quiet. So I structure, let's do a meal together where it's wild and everybody's together, but then everybody can disperse and I can sit at my desk and do something quiet. And then we do something active again. So the day has a flow to it that is very natural with your inner rhythm that's
Mm.
easier to embrace. And
Yes.
in that, you can then gently fold in some routines. Um, and that seems to work for our family fairly well. Now, if you have an autistic child who thrives on really rigid structure, then all I can say is I'm sorry, good luck. Um, Find outside points
Yeah.
to anchor you, because
Yeah.
for an ADHD brain, it's hard
It
to
is. Yeah.
structure that yourself.
Yeah. And that's one thing I noticed. If we create the structure for her, she's good. If she has to do it herself, that's where, yeah. So the
Yeah.
mapping is very important. Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, go
And
ahead.
yeah, well, if you have a child, you can do that. But what do you do when you become an adult? And
Right.
there, you don't have your parent anymore to do that. And maybe your work will, but you have to then really look for support
Yeah.
to create that outside structure.
Yeah.
And
Have the
it's
mapping. Yeah.
possible, but it's
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's definitely a learning curve, especially for us, because my husband and I are considered neurotypicals. Actually, as I learn some of this stuff, it's like I have some of those traits. I have some
Yeah.
of those traits. So you can
Mhm.
definitely see it because I love structure and routine as well. But I can handle the surprise. I can handle the wrenches a lot easier. But if I'm stressed, not so much.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
was stressed all the time in my working industry. Like that industry was so demanding that throw me a wrench and I'd lose my shit. So
Yeah.
yeah. So in closing, I want to make sure we touch on what is your bigger mission and how are you impacting right now? Because I'm going to have all your information at the bottom of this video so that if people want to connect with you, they can. But I want you to share in your own words, what's your impact? Who do you help and why are you doing it?
Well, my specifically who I work with is moms, just because that's who I understand the deepest and who I relate to the deepest, and also a little bit because they're the most overlooked, because they just function, but their function in society is so deep and impacting. So right now I am working on actually establishing physical meeting places all over the world
Oh,
where
nice.
moms can connect with each other, where we build a circle of trust and connection, and where it really the core idea of it is to walk mindfully through the year and to help each other physically do stuff. if for many ADHD people, we do well with body doubling, meaning with working on my thing while you work on your thing, and we're doing it in the same space. That can happen online. It's wonderful when it happens in your space, and creating that everywhere. Now, for that, I'm training leaders to hold those circles because I can't physically do it all over the place. So I'm training leaders right now. And with that comes also the training for self-care and capacity. Because if you're in survival mode, there's no way you can add another thing to your plate. So these circles are supposed to help take off a load because you're doing the play part, you're connecting with people. You're also getting things done because that's the core part of a need to circle. And it brings in the self-care. But I am also definitely training people just in self-care. So if you're saying, man, I totally understand what you're saying, I lack all of that, I'm in the mess of it all, I do group and one-on-one work with people to really get to what will work for you. Like, what is already working well, what is not working well, and how can we just shift it ever so slightly so you can get out of that survival, out of that chaos, and get to a place where you can breathe, where you can find yourself again, where you can recognize yourself again, and have a
Yeah.
family that functions according to how you and your family works.
Yeah.
That's in a nutshell what we're doing.
Nice. And like you say, the little tweaks can go so far.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's powerful. Especially around the ADHD and the autism piece, because it's been a struggle. Like I created my own Facebook group so we can support each other. And it's not just for neurodivergence. I've opened that group up to anyone who's dealing with, handicaps of any kind and any sicknesses or illnesses. Because I also had two brothers that passed away when I was younger of a hereditary disease. So even
Yeah.
having an illness in the family that's a permanent fixture, that's a lifelong illness, even circumstantial, like things like cancer and stuff, if you don't have the supports in place, it gets tough. Or if you don't have, like you say, the peer groups, it can be challenging. So I created that group on Facebook for that purpose so we can support each other, because I certainly don't have all the knowledge, but with my knowledge, your knowledge, and everyone else's knowledge
Yeah.
together, we can have a system in place that as it grows is a bond and a resource that's unstoppable. So thank
Very
you for
much.
joining so much. This
Thank
was
you for having
awesome.
me.
Yes, and I'll make sure all your information is in the description below in
Too.
this video. So if you want to connect with Nicola, you can connect down below. And thank you so much, everybody, for joining. Take care, everyone. Remember, breathe deep. Oh, I love my breath work.
Yes, amen.
Excellent.
Thank
Take care,
you.
everyone. We'll talk soon.